Yes. Well, I want to say thank you to everyone who supported and understood my need for a sabbatical. In ministry, we don't have an 8 to 5 job. I don't go home and turn things off. And I accept that, and I love what I do, but it leaks into really every day of my life. But that's why there is a need for some time apart. The last Unity conference that Paul and I went to, there were 2 longtime Unity ministers there that had been in ministry for over 40 years each. And people were asking, what advice would you give to ministers in the field now? And one of the main things they said was, take your time off. Because if you do not recharge, you cannot be effective for your congregation. And that's exactly, coming back from this, I am recharged, I am refreshed, I am renewed, and I am ready to go. And that makes all the difference in the world. And I want to tell you that when I was thinking about what am I going to do on my sabbatical, I thought I was going to read novels, because I don't read novels much, because I'm always reading my spiritual material. And I read one novel, and it just ended, and there was no reason, like I didn't get it, And so, because my life is my work, I read 2 Sue Monk kid books, one called The Traveling Pomegranates and the other called When the Heart Waits. And it was reading the book When the Heart Waits that really brought up some deeply profound questions in my own life. Questions about what is it that I really believe? How would I define things? How do I feel about, am I living my life good enough? Things like that. And the great thing is I had time to be with those questions. And I had time to let those answers just bubble up from within me, and I am so grateful for that. And today, I'm going to be sharing with you an incredible, life-changing experience that I had thanks to my lovely sweetheart as we went out west. But first, I want to thank our speakers during that time off. Now, if you remember, Armand and Angelina talked about the power of gratitude. How are you?
I am grateful.
I am grateful. How good does that feel? How are you?
I am grateful.
Turn to somebody and ask, how are you? How's that feel? What a difference, right? How are you? I am grateful. I am grateful because you know what? We always have a lot of things to be grateful for. And then our wonderful John Merrifield, our incredible sound tech in the back. Yep. I love that John said yes, and one of my takeaways on his was he reminded us not to focus on our limitation and our limitations, but to claim our intention. He didn't say, I want to quit smoking. He said, I am a non-smoker. Big difference, right? And the great thing is John said he'd be happy to get up here again, so we'll be seeing all of our speakers again. Mary Hilsebeck-Huber, our amazing board president, who spoke to us about the importance of vulnerability and the pursuit of authenticity. This supports our mission statement and how we cannot truly be authentic and be real if we're not allowing ourselves to be vulnerable and to be seen. And she also talked about the difference between shame and guilt. Shame says, I am bad. Guilt says, oh, I did something bad, but I can fix that. And then we had our wonderful Dee Richardson, our administrator, that did, yes, a phenomenal job on affirmative prayer. I told her this really could be a staple on affirmative prayer because it got back right to the basics of affirmative prayer, denials and affirmations, based on Jesus saying, whatsoever things you ask for in prayer, believing that you have received them, you will have them. So we pray as if it's already happened. And then, of course, we had our amazing Reverend Chaz Wesley, who we all love, and he reminded us that every ending has a new beginning, and that we are, I love the thought of we're either in the way of God or we're the way of God. We're either resisting change or we're embracing it, and we're going with the flow. So what an incredible 5 weeks that we have all had, because we listened to the talks on our drives as we were traveling. Okay, so today's courage and fear. There was a quote that I read. According to most studies, people's number one fear is public speaking. Number 2 is death. Death is number 2. Does that sound right? This means to the average person, if you go to a funeral, you're better off in the casket than doing the eulogy. A psychologist interviewed Steve Allen, and Steve Allen announced that there are only 2 instinctive fears in man, the fear of loud noises and the fear of falling. Steve said, I have a great fear, and without missing a beat, he said, of making a loud noise while I'm falling. So the title of today's talk is Courage. Courage. What makes a king out of a slave? Courage. What makes the flag on a mast to wave? Courage. What makes the elephant charge his tusk, and the misty mist or the dusky dusk? What makes the muskrat guard his musk? Courage. What makes the Sphinx the 7th wonder? Courage. What makes the dawn come up like thunder? Courage. What makes the Hottentot so hot? What puts the ape in the apricot? What do they got that I ain't got? Courage. I hope that by the end of this talk today that you will know you have been born with a spirit of courage. You have not been born with a spirit of timidity. You have been born with a spirit of power and with a spirit of courage, and that you can make that choice with whatever it is that you are facing today. So how many of us would admit that we have some phobias? Okay, let's look at what some of them might be. Arachnophobia, fear of spiders. Ophidiophobia, fear of snakes. Acrophobia, fear of heights. Agoraphobia, fear of open or crowded spaces. Claustrophobia, fear of small spaces. Aerophobia, fear of flying. Thanatophobia, fear of death. Glossophobia, fear of public speaking. Monophobia, fear of being alone. Aquaphobia, fear of water. Autophobia, fear of abandonment. Foophobia, fear of fear. And how about this one? Panophobia, fear of everything. When I looked this up, you guys, there were hundreds of phobias. Things like germs and birds and worms, zombies, commitment, balloons, clowns, the number 13, butterflies, feet, buttons, bananas, cotton balls, mirrors, belly buttons. And there's actually names for all of these phobias. Now, as we know, a phobia, when we have a phobia, it can be pretty debilitating, right? It's one thing to have a fear. It's a whole nother thing to have a phobia. Well, you know, there's a couple of different acronyms for fear. And one of them that we hear a lot is false evidence appearing real. And that's true. It's like, you know, our fears are really false evidence that appear real to us. But the one that I'm really going to talk about today is forget everything and run. And when we're in that fear, for me anyway, any blood that was in my brain has gone to my heart that is pumping out of my chest, and I'm not my normal self. Can you guys agree with that? When we're in the midst of that kind of a phobia, everything is just like, ugh. Okay. So what I'm going to share with you is our journey out west, and my beautiful partner, and how Paul was the most gentlest, loving encourager on this journey. And I want to tell you, because I was in the forget everything and run place numerous times, he probably saw sides of me that he's never seen before, because I was there. So I have a huge fear of heights. And so on the Sunday before, we went to Colorado. His daughters live there. We went to church. We got to go see Mindy Odlin, for those of you who know Mindy. And so we're on our way back to her house, and he said, do you want to go up Lookout Mountain? And I'm like, yes, let's go up Lookout Mountain. Well, what I don't realize is Lookout Mountain is you're pretty much driving along the edge of Lookout Mountain. And so we're going up this mountain, and I'm starting to feel panic. And we get to the top of this mountain. This is the road. And there's this family there, and they have a little boy, maybe 2 or 3, and they're playing close to the edge. And there's Paul standing out there too. Well, I am way back here, and I am so panicked for this little boy because I know he's going to fall off the edge, you know. So as we're walking back to our cars, I look at Paul and Sarah. I said, "Do you guys? Do you have any fear of being up here?" And they're like, "No fear at all." Okay, you know. So we get. Oh, well, hold on. We go back down the mountain, and I get totally quiet because I'm wanting to cry. I am so filled with terror. And we get back to the house, and Paul comes in, and he's like, "Honey, you know what's going on?" And I'm just like, I tell him. And the thing is, Paul has a phobia of flying. So he gets it. It's not just I am afraid of flying. He is terrorized by flying. And so he understood what was going on with me. And I just said, "Our whole vacation is mountains and canyons and valleys, you know. I feel like I'm going to be terrified the entire time." And so we decided, well, there were some things I was going to take you on, like the $1 Million Highway, but we won't do that because that would terrorize you too much. So our first thing that we get to do is we get to go up into the Rocky Mountains. Now, I got to tell you, grace played such a part in our journey in so many ways, and always does. Because that particular day, it was the foggiest that Paul had ever seen it. You could not see 2 car lengths in front of you. And I do believe that was Grace's way of just saying, "I'm not going to terrorize you today because you can't see off the edges." And so I wasn't terrorized that day. But I realized this is probably how I'm going to do the entire trip. I'm going to have my eyes closed the whole time, and I'm going to miss the journey. Now, do you think that's how I wanted to do the trip? Absolutely not. And thank God, again, I had a partner who was so loving and so supportive and so encouraging. Now, Paul is so encouraging that he just has this thing about wanting to help me expand my comfort zones, you know. So I'm already terrorized by all the heights and stuff. And one day he says, "Honey, I think it'd be a good idea if we go river rafting." Whitewater river rafting. And I'm just like, and I'm thinking, "Oh my gosh, I'm already so terrorized. You want me to go whitewater rafting?" And he's, honey, we can do a level 2. I've done a level 4, but we can do a level 2. It's easy. You just kick back and you relax and you get to see the scenery. You'll love it. And I'm like thinking about it. And then he says, "Oh, but honey, I think you'd really enjoy a level 3. And I'm just like, "What?" And he's like, "Oh, really? I mean, you'll get to kick back and relax part of the time, but part of it will be exciting, you know." So at this point, I'm like, I'm closed. I'm forgetting everything and running. No, it's not happening. The next morning I get up, I said, "Okay, let's go do it." So we go, we get our gear, and they take us to where they're going to put us in the river, and Paul's standing behind me. And there's the guide, and the guide has to spend like 10 to 15 minutes telling us every way that we can get sucked under the water and die. And I'm serious when I say this. It was like, you know, if you fall out, do this, or else you're going, and don't put your foot down, because if you're a size 7 and it's a size 6, it's sucking you under. And I'm just standing there, and Paul's behind me, and at one point, I just turn around. And he's like, "Honey, I'm sorry." But, you know, overall, I kept saying to myself, it's going to be fine, because he kept reminding me of what truth is. God is with you. You have nothing to worry about. This is going to be great. He was that voice for me. And I want to tell you that we had the best time river rafting. And it was fun. And it wasn't scary. There wasn't like a lot of kickback and see the scenery. But it was amazing. And my point is, if I wouldn't have moved into that and let myself feel the fear, I wouldn't have had that experience. And I'm so grateful that I did. So, and I'm not sure I have this totally in order, but so then we go to what is called Black Canyon. and so we get to go, and here's him standing on the edge. Now, I got to tell you, here's what happens for you. This is what I finally got. When I'm in that forget everything and run, my body goes weak. And that's why I feel like I'm going to fall over the edge because I have no control. When I see him standing out there and I'm standing way back here, I'm just like, oh God, please don't let him fall. Please don't let him fall. Please don't let him fall. But I would have missed the beauty had I not had this beautiful partner that kept reminding me, you're okay. You can trust me. You know, God is with you. You're going to be okay. And this is still part of Black Canyon. Yes, that's my, oh no, this is actually the $1 Million Highway, I think. So here's the thing then. So the $1 Million Highway is supposed to be one of the most spectacular highways to drive, you know, in that area where you see the most amazing views along the edges of the mountains. And so there's 100% I'm not going on this. So he's like telling me, honey, honey, I think you can do it. There's supposed to be the most beautiful scenery. And I'm like, honey, you don't understand. You can't look at the scenery. You got to look at the road. So you can't even look at it. And me, I'm going to be in a ball in front of the truck. So we may not go because we're not going to see anything. Honey, you can trust me. Okay, so I say yes. It was amazing. And you know, we get to the end of this $1 Million Highway, and I'm like, I'm good. I'm like feeling really good. Like, I've mastered. I mean, I'm starting to feel okay with this. And then we go from there to Mesa Verde. The Mesa Verde was one of my very favorite places to visit. But I'm going to tell you, this is where the Pueblo Indians lived on the cliff sides. Did I say cliff sides? Cliff straight down, cliff sides. I was great on the $1 Million Highway, and we start driving, and I'm like, holy schmoly, because we're on the edge of some crazy, crazy, crazy cliffs. And again, I have this person who is just loving me and saying, it's okay, you can trust me. And these are the things that we saw. And it was so amazing to see how they built their dwellings, literally on the steep sides of the cliffs. And they created their villages there. This is the cliff sides. And you can see the people, how small the people are, you know, walking in these areas. And it was beyond amazing. And I would have missed it if I wouldn't have let myself feel the fear and have this partner reminding me, you're okay. God's got you. You know, you don't have anything to worry about. So here we are, mountain after mountain, cliff after cliff, canyon after canyon. And then we finally get to the Grand Canyon. Do you know why they call it the Grand Canyon? Because it's ginormous. And it's steep. And it's scary. And so it's a whole new level of, okay, here we are again. So, so we get there. Now, here's what I want to show you. Right there is Lookout Point. Paul says, honey, I think we should walk out to Lookout Point and forget everything and run. Is safe back here? And I'm like, oh, no. There's no way. Honey, I will hold your hand the entire time. There's fences on the side. Honey, I think we can do it. And there it is. It's still out there. We're getting a little closer. There it is. And there we are. I'm still alive at this point, which is pretty amazing. So, and it was beautiful. It was stunning. It was, and there were actually people along the way that knew I was so afraid. They were encouraging me along the way. They saw me there. You did it. We go into the bookstore, and this is what I see over the edge. Death in the Grand Canyon. And I said, honey. However, we did find out that falling off the edge of the canyon is not the way most people have died, so I felt better about that. But again, these are just some of the views that we got to see in the Grand Canyon. And the point is, you guys, I'd have missed it. I'd have missed it if I didn't let myself feel the fear. The fear was there. Feel the fear and do it anyway. So there's Paul. He's out there. I'm there. I'm still having a little bit of a panic, about this. So there was an arch in the Grand Canyon, and again, here's the lookout point. And yes, honey, I think we should walk out to that point. And so we did, and these are some of the views that we got to see because we walked out to that point. I mean, it was just phenomenal. And pictures can't do it justice. It was what I got to experience because I felt the fear and I allowed myself to feel it. So we get done at the Grand Canyon, man, I'm feeling good. I'm feeling good. We start out driving. We're going to Moab. And Paul sees a fire ladder. You know what's coming. Honey, I think we should stop and go up the fire ladder. I'm just like, seriously. Like, I haven't been terrorized enough on this vacation. You want me to go up the fire ladder? But I did. And I wasn't able to go all the way to the top, but you know what? I was good. I was okay. And that was amazing to me. And I think that was really kind of my turning point when I started to realize that I wasn't in that terror anymore, that I had really started to move through and to overcome this phobia that I had been experiencing. So then we go to Moab. And like I said, Paul is good at helping push me out of my comfort zone. And so we go to Moab. He wants to get up early in the morning and go see the National Arches National Park, and see the sun come up. What he doesn't tell me, what he forgets to tell me, is, honey, we're going to go on a hike. I've got white shoes, tennis shoes on, white capris. It's red dirt. And please understand, most of you know, my body has dealt with fibromyalgia. I'm doing so much better, but because of that, I haven't been really active. So like hiking, what he says is 2 miles turns out to be 3 miles. And here's the thing, you guys. See, like way up there? That's where people are. And I'm standing there looking and I'm going, no way, no. And I'm like, oh my gosh, they're moving. Those are people. And I look at them and I go, yeah, we're not going up there, are we? Honey, you can do it. Honey, we've got water. You're going to be fine. Well, I was not a happy camper going up this thing because it was hot, and we start up, we go, and he's the whole way. He's so gentle. He's like, let's sit down, let's take a break. I'm just mad, and he's like, I know you're mad at me. I go, I'm mad at you right now. The thing is that, so we finally get almost there, and then somebody says, by the way, there's like a 4-foot rim that you have to go around to get to this arch. Okay. The beautiful thing is that rim didn't bother me one bit. We went around that, we went down to this arch, and there was no way that he thought I was going to go down in this arch and get my picture taken. It was like nothing. And coming back down, I felt bad for all the people going up because it was hot, but it was so worth it. And getting to the bottom, and I did it. And I wouldn't have done it had it not been for this support, this beautiful person that's telling me all along, you can do it. I'm right here with you. You're safe. God is with you. You have it. You can, you have the strength. It's okay. And so as we're coming back, I'm like, because we were going back through Colorado, let's stop at Outlook Mountain, and let's go up the mountain. And we drove up that mountain, and you guys, I had no fear whatsoever. None. It was amazing. Now, I'm not saying that all the fear of heights is gone, but I'm telling you, I think the phobia part of it is gone. But here's the thing about it, and here's what I want you to know, is that it wasn't just about me moving through this phobia of heights. It opened something up in me. It broke something open in me that affected my life. Because what I feel is I feel braver. I feel like I have so much more courage in general. And so when we came back, went to Whitewater, man, I went on that highest slide and went down it. And then there's a place right behind Ski Shack that you can go wakeboarding, and I went wakeboarding. And you know something, in the past I wouldn't have put myself out there to do that because I wasn't brave. I didn't have courage. What am I going to look like? I'm going to fall a gazillion times. I'm going to tell you I fell a gazillion times. And bless my daughter's heart, she got a moment when I was standing up. But it was a blast. And you know, I was reading a thing that said that the top 27 things that you'll regret when you get older, number 6 is being scared to do things. And it's recognizing, you know, what fear is holding you back. Because here's what I can promise you. Whatever it is that phobia is or that fear, it affects other things in our lives. And I didn't even know that. I didn't even know that my fear of heights was actually holding me back from so much more in my life. And that moving through that experience, letting myself feel the fear, being supported, and then coming out on the other side, that it affected my entire being. And you know what's really cool? I was talking to Mary on Wednesday. We were talking about this, and it just dawned on me. We do a white stone ceremony at the beginning of the year every year. And that white stone ceremony is where we allow ourselves to deepen and to allow a word or words to come up, a name, something that is meaningful. And my word that came up for this year was courage. How cool is that? So some keys I want to give you. First of all, and we go to this every time, you guys, it's God first. We have to walk in the awareness, not just that we think about it now and then, but that God, Holy Spirit, however you look at this divine energy, this divine beingness, is with us all the time. And that all is well. I am safe. There's a scripture that in Joshua that says, "This is my command, be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid or discouraged, for the Lord your God is with you wherever you go." Know that courage is a choice. It's not a feeling. Sometimes we can't control our feelings, right? But we can always choose to be courageous, and we can change those fears. When I was younger, I had such a fear of needles that I would get migraine headaches just thinking about going and getting a flu shot. When I had my children, I didn't want to pass that fear on to them. And so I made a choice to be courageous and to get over that fear. And I'll tell you what, I do not have a fear of needles all today. And that is just one thing. And I think probably most of us can look back on our lives and see where we have overcome a huge fear. Also recognize that we cannot have fear and faith at the same time. We make a choice, you guys, if we're focused on fear or if we're focused on faith. You know, feel the fear and do it anyway. And then lastly, find somebody who is that voice. Because we all have people in our lives, and if we're moving into something, we're moving through something, we recognize, boy, I'm kind of afraid of this, I'm starting a new adventure in my life, reach out to somebody who is close to you and share that with them. That's the being vulnerable. And tell them, boy, I'm really afraid of this. I'm excited about it, but I'm afraid. Can you help me? Can you support me? Can you be that voice that helps guide me through it? And you will be amazed on the other side of it. So I just want to encourage all of us today to live larger, to step out, to let ourselves, you know, we're so good at when fear comes up, man, we forget everything and run. And that's not always going to serve us, you know. I mean, we know what kind of fear we're talking about today. So when those fears come up, you know, remember, God is with me. I've got this. I've got everything. I am strong, and I am courageous. And I'm just going to tell you that just as I did not fall to my death in the Grand Canyon, that you will also be supported, you will be guided, and your life will change. Your life will change for the better. And that is 100% guarantee. Namaste. Namaste. Thank you. Thank you, guys. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah.